We discover many things when we use social media for political purposes. We learn about candidates running for office. We get surprised by our friends' political beliefs. And we discover our power as citizens when we speak up and defend our views. On today's episode, we will hear from two experts who will share their observations on how politicians and citizens encourage Filipinos to take part in political conversations online. I'm Nicole Corrado, and you're watching Meet the Millennials. As consumers, we encounter campaigns every day. And in this election, candidates are being marketed to us just like any product or service. But there is one difference. There is no money-back guarantee when we realize we chose the wrong candidate. How can we be more discerning when we are bombarded with so much political content? Joining us today is Baus Rufo, digital strategist, content creator, and a friend of the program. Hi, Baus. Welcome to Meet the Millennials.
Hi, Nicole. It's great to be back.
Yes, absolutely. I'm delighted to see you again because 3 years ago, we asked for your observations on how politicians during the 2019 senatorial race used social media to advance their campaigns. So, fast forward to 2022, we want to hear your thoughts on how politicians' campaigns online have evolved. What are your observations as a digital strategist?
Yes, so I think for this election, politicians, candidates have been much more sophisticated at how they do their digital marketing practices, just in terms of scope and scale. Like when we try to look back at 2019 and even 2016, there was really just one big platform where everything is happening, and that was Facebook. And the buzzwords were fake news sites, trolls. This time around, every platform is being used. So you have Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, and then of course, sometimes even Reddit, where every content format there is that's available in the platform is being utilized by the candidates and the different political parties and teams.
Is political campaigning evolving with digital marketing? So I ask this because, of course, this is your expertise. So, for example, there have been a lot of changes with the way companies market shampoo or fast food. Are these same strategies also being used now to market politicians?
Yes, definitely. They've moved closer to how actual marketers of consumer goods actually market their products. So in digital marketing, there is this framework that we call a consumer journey or consumer funnel, wherein we funnel down an audience from awareness down to conversion, meaning down to when they actually purchase a product. So if we use the lens of the elections with that consumer journey, it's basically funneling down a registered voter into voting a candidate. And a lot of where digital marketing really happens is really in the consideration part of the journey. It's in the consideration part where a lot of hardworking content pieces are being consumed by the public. So whether that comes from original videos or content creators or influencer marketing efforts, that's where all the convincing and the changing of perception actually happens. And then this time around, the conversion we're looking at is a vote.
So I'm curious if there are particular strategies that are appealing to millennials. So, for example, some people say that micro influencers, not even the most popular influencers, it's micro influencers that really help millennials and even Gen Zs make up their minds whether they're buying a product or voting for a particular candidate. What's your take on this?
Yeah, so one type of personality isn't actually stronger than the other. You can look at your celebrities as, the group that is much stronger when it comes to authority because they command the following. And you can look at your nano micro influencers as the group that command authenticity because they are real people who more or less you see that you go through the same things that they do. Maybe it's a matter of like what's the perfect combination of authenticity and authority for that particular candidate in order to drive the votes.
And of course, the politicians themselves are celebrities in their own right, right? Like a lot of the presidential candidates, for example, have their own vlogs, have their own TikTok channels. What does that do to the conversations that we are having about the elections? How does that transform the way we decide now that the politicians themselves try to be influencers?
So it definitely humanizes them because that's the whole magic around content creators, your nano and micro influencers, right? Like that's why we follow them. That's why I follow my own set of influencers because their lifestyle, their beliefs, their values, the way they live their lives resonate with me. And when a particular candidate does that or gives us a peek into their lives, of course, they also are able to open up parts of their lives that may resonate with the voting public because sometimes maybe it's a simple appeal to the emotion or a simple gesture wherein a candidate was able to help someone in need and they were able to catch it on camera. So it humanizes them. The storytelling is much richer when they do have their own personal social media accounts. So as I guess as a strategist, that is always good for a brand or a candidate.
Yeah, I find that fascinating because some people naman would say that the stories that politicians show on social media just perpetuates the personality politics that's happening in the Philippines. But what I'm getting from you is that it can actually be a good thing because it allows politicians to better connect with the voters.
Definitely. And you know, at the end of the day, when we vote for politicians, we listen to their platforms, and of course, we marry that with their track record. So it's not like a consumer good wherein there is tangible proofs that you will have shiny hair in 10 days, and then if you're not happy, you can just decide to switch to a shampoo. This is quite tricky. Not really tricky, but like there is a massive leap of faith that the voters need to take, and then it's just that the content pieces they post on their social media channels become part of the body of work a voter will look at before they make that big decision.
I'm glad you mentioned that because for people like me who don't know digital marketing at all, we can get the impression that everything is just manufactured, it's just fake, kwento-kwento lang yan. But what I'm getting from you is actually creating that complete story is very difficult because you really have to get to the entire track record of the candidate.
Yes.
Well, thank you for your comments, Baus. We will see you again later because when we return, we are going to discuss the role of citizens in shaping political campaigns on social media. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Meet the Millennials. A while ago, we talked to Baus Rufo about how politicians use strategies in digital marketing to advance their campaigns. This time, let's talk about the role of the citizens. How are citizens pushing back against dishonest political campaigns? How are Filipinos crafting their own content to give visibility to the candidates that they support? Let's welcome JM Lanuza. JM is one of the authors of the report Understudied Digital Platforms in the Philippines, and he's also an assistant professor of political science at the University of the Philippines, Manila. Hi, JM. Welcome to Meet the Millennials.
Oh, happy to be here.
JM, a while ago, I asked Baus to describe how politicians and their digital strategy teams have changed the way they campaign in 2022. So I want to ask you the same question, but this time from the perspective of citizens as content creators. What surprised you when you monitor how citizens create content today in relation to the elections?
So the degree of creativity and inclusivity is very surprising for us. We see people composing songs. We see people doing choreographies, doing really witty skits. We see memes being co-opted. So this is readily observable in TikTok, for example, where influencers and regular users alike explore and use a wide variety of content for political endorsements and campaigns. So this signifies high engagement and high political efficacy. They feel a sense of belongingness to the campaigns, and there's a high degree of community ownership for these campaigns as well. It's no longer centralized campaigns from political parties. It's really a more online grassroots thing. But we're also seeing more disinformation. We're also seeing more organic fake news this time. People that are not anonymous sharing more disinformative content. So there's higher levels of distrust towards formal institutions of knowledge. It's surprising how far we've come towards creating campaign propaganda online. And it's very surprising how high the civic engagement is for online.
Let's unpack that a bit, no? Because you seem so excited about the level of creativity and
Yes.
energy. And I assume these are Gen Zs, hindi na millennials, yung pinag-uusapan
Mhm.
natin dito. The Gen Zs on TikTok and on YouTube showing their support for a particular candidate. What does this mean for the elections, right? What does this mean for democratic life? Because some people would probably say, sumasayaw-sayaw lang naman sa TikTok yan eh. What does that do to our electoral process? So why are these developments meaningful?
Anyone who tries to organize a social movement knows how hard it is for people to disrupt their daily routines. So when you see people who weren't as engaged before doing more content now, doing more participation now, both online and offline, that's a big thing. It means that something is clicking, it means that narratives are resonant, and this can potentially catalyze into more transformative practices later on at a bigger level, at a bigger stage. So it's really important for us to see what's driving these actions and to further these actions, to convince people to do more, to be more, to join all the conversations that they can, because that just means an exercise, a more active exercise in democracy.
Right, that's actually quite inspiring, But a while ago, you also mentioned how some of our fellow Filipinos are also crafting disinformation themselves. Parang what I'm getting from what you're saying is this time, these are not as systematic, but also more organic. So is that really a scary proposition for our democracy na mas na-democratize pa yung pagkalat ng disinformation?
Yeah, it's not really less systematic and more organic now. It's more of both. So both sides are being tapped even more. People are now resorting to their own information ecosystems. There's a high level of distrust in media, in schools, in the government, these legacy institutions. And that makes for an ineffective level of deliberation for the community. So we're not talking, we're not trying to see what's going to be best for all of us. We're just shouting over each other's heads. We're just having a contest over who has the loudest voice and not necessarily who's saying the right points. And that's not a good formula for policy. That's not a good formula for welfare. So in the end, the normal citizens like us are still going to lose from this political process, from this political exclusion.
Right, yeah. I mean, obviously, every time we talk about disinformation, we always talk about who benefits from the disinformation in the first place. But I think one of the fascinating trends this time around, supporters of candidates are also saying we are creating content as volunteers. We are not getting paid to do this. This is our own resource, our own energy to support the candidates. What does that do to our democracy now that there's more volunteerism that's happening?
The mere fact that there are more people now pledging support, joining mobilizations, and actively saying that they're not paid means that there's an upswell of socialization and political awareness. And we have to capitalize on that because it means people are now willing to be more involved in democratic processes. People are now willing to go beyond the ballot, go beyond voting. Because for the longest time, that's what we've relied on. That's our definition of democracy. We go to elections every 3 to 6 years, but that's not really it. That's very lacking. So when people are saying that they're supporting this candidate willingly, it allows people to be more curious. It allows people to be more aligned or to see themselves being a part of something bigger and partaking in society building, in state building. So that's really a welcome development for us. That's something we want. We don't want people who don't care. We want people who are loud. We want people who are vocal because that's the way that we can develop into something better as a community, as a state, as a country.
Right. Well, thank you for your insights, Jem. I certainly feel energized by that observation. We will continue our discussion later when we return. You're still watching Meet the Millennials. Welcome back to Meet the Millennials. You're still with me, Nicole Curato, and still on the program are Baus Rufo and JM Leluza. Baus, I want to take advantage of your presence because you are also a content creator. So I want to ask you what you see your role is as someone who can deepen our political conversations, or maybe someone who will teach us how to better discuss our opinions online. Ano ba yung role ng content creators when it comes to that?
I feel like intelligent conversations are already happening right now within the respective channels of the influencers and content creators. I say that because these content creators really put in a lot of work to be able to engage their audience. And when you engage someone, the fact that you make them think, the fact that you are able to challenge them critically, I think is already an intelligent conversation that you are having with your audience member.
Right, and I think that really requires so much skill, no, to portray or to show someone who is fun and creative and attention grabbing, but also prompt reflection on the part of the audience. Hindi madaling gumawa ng ganong content, right?
Yes. It's a lot of planning and a lot of courage.
A lot of planning and a lot of courage. Gusto ko yan. And of course, when we think about the participation of citizens, it's not just limited to them being content creators. And I think I want to ask JM this because there have been a lot of interventions to address the issue of disinformation on social media. So I suppose my question is, what is the point of these interventions of fact checks and disinformation reporting tools? Why are they important?
So we actually have evidence from foreign studies showing that when people try to correct misinformation online, it's more effective. So it's resonant and it lends people this sense of genuine interaction. So it's not just an alien imposition of knowledge. It's actually people telling you what they found out. So it's a big deal for people to be engaged in cleaning up their own information ecosystems. It really helps. No? So it converts a lot of people. It makes people believe less in conspiracies, in conspiratorial thinking. It allows them to question claims more online and to practice better online engagements.
Right, I see. I think that's a very important point. And Baus, what's your take on this? Parang it's so easy to promote lies, but how hard is it also to promote truths right now?
It's equally hard. I think most of us here already have fact checking as part of our daily lives in terms of like when we consume a piece of information. Where it becomes dangerous is when you think you've already done enough research that actually confirm your bias, as opposed to really doing the work and be really able to check both sides. So that it's a very nuanced place we're at, but I think the fact that we are more critical is ultimately still a great thing.
Right. And I guess when we talk about advertising on social media or even campaigning on social media, meron namang instantaneous response yung mga users of social media, right? Parang people who comment on posts, people who share posts also have their own opinions. What are your observations here, JM? Do you think our ordinary Filipinos, not necessarily content creators, but ordinary people who spend time online, do you think there is more effort now to engage in correcting dishonest advertisements and also building up candidates that they think deserve to be elected?
People are more discerning. People are more vocal about who they deem as bad candidates or unfit candidates. And when they see ads of people who are running for office, but they didn't sign up for those ads, they're really questioning the algorithm. They're really questioning the platforms. And they're providing examples of better alternatives, better candidates. So people are really more engaged now. And it's not just a one-step flow of information from the platforms, from the advertisers to the audience. People get to think about what they want to consume. People tend to reconfigure their timelines, their feeds, and ultimately engage more, not just with their own circles, but with people outside of their circles as well.
And of course, it's not just limited to the election, right? So I think I also want to get your thoughts on how we can actually harness the energy especially of young people during the elections, how we can harness that energy to nation building even after the elections are over. What do you think are the trends that we will see after May 9?
So I think they're going to have more engagements. There's going to be a lot of impetus towards building more social movements and organizations, local interest organizations, interest groups that hopefully can spur more democratic participation later on. If this is the trend that we're seeing, if we're seeing the youth of today, the millennials of today being disengaged, then I think we'll have a bright political future. I think we'll have an exciting next 6 to 12 years of political engagements.
Right. And how about you, Baus?
I think ultimately this is going to lead to much more active participation from everyone and hopefully across all generations. So I think what this election has taught us, or is continuing to teach us, is that everyone can be a source of information, a consumer of information, a conduit of information, or a mediator of information, because everybody gets to play a role. You just make a comment on Facebook that is well crafted. It gets you a lot of likes, and that catches fire. Then in a span of hours, you become your own nano influencer. But I think that's what everyone needs to be able to take away from it, that everyone can actually actively participate in the elections and hopefully in nation building. I hope it doesn't stop here, because I think it really has fired up a lot of us and really recognizing that there is power individually.
Well, there you have it, Baus, JM. Your work continues to inspire me. Thank you for joining us today. And of course, thank you to our viewers for staying engaged, even though politics is often messy and frustrating. I hope our episode inspired you to do everything that is humanly possible to defend our rights and freedoms online and offline. Thank you for watching Meet the Millennials. I'm Nicole Curato. See you next time.
This episode of Meet the Millennials is presented to you by Sunmig Light. Get into the light life, Sunmig Light.